Sagara Edase Karuna Kori Oh hey Vaishnava Thakura Doyara Sagara Edase Karuna Kori Diya Parachaya Shodo He Amai Tomara Charana Dori Chaya Begadomi Chaya Dosha Shoji Chaya Guna Deho Dase Chaya Shatsanga Deho He Amare Boshashi Shangera Ashe Ekake Amar Nai Bhai Bhalo Harinama Sankirtane Tumi Kripa Kore Sharavindu Diya Deho Krishna Nama Hane Krishna se tomar, Krishna jite paro, tomara shakti ache. Krishna se tomar, Krishna jite paro, tomara shakti ache. Amito Ganga, Krishna Krishna bole. Dayata Pache Pache Oh hey Vaishnava Thakur Doyara Sagara Edase Karuna Kori Oh hey Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Ujjvala Varna. Ujjvala Varna Gaura Bharadeha Nivasita Nirabari Baba Videha Trivumna Pavana Kripa Tam pranamami cha Shri Sachitannayam. Jagadantara Baba Vikaram Durjana Tarjana Nada Vishalam Bhavabhaya Bhajana Karana Karunam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitannayam. Arunam Bharadara Charu Kapolam Indu Vinindita Nakachaya Ruchiram Japita Ninja Guna Nama Vinodam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitannayam. Digalita Nayana Kamala Jalatara Bhushana Navarasa Bhava Vikaram Gati Ati Mantana Nritya Vilasam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitannayam. Chanchara Charu Charana Shakti Ruchira Manjira Ranjita Pada Juga Madhuram Chandra Vinindita Shitala Vadanam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitannayam. Vita Kati Tora Kamandalu Dandam Dipjakale Vara Mundita Mundam Turjana Kalmasha Khandana Dandam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitannayam. Bhushana Bhuraja Alakavalitam Kampita Vimthara Vararuchira Malaya Javira Chitta Ujjvala Tilakam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitannayam. Nindita Aruna Kamala Dalanayanam Ajanulam Dita Shri Puja Yugalam Levara Kaishora Nartaka Vesham Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitannayam. Ujjvala Varna Vira Vara pavana kupaya vesham tam pranamami cha Shri Sachitanayam. Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jaya Gaura Hari. Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jaya Gaura Hari. Jai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gaura Hari Bol. Bhagavad-gita chapter 8, please. Arjuna Vacha Kim Tat Brahma Kim Adhyatma Kim Karma Purushottama Adibhutam Chikim Proktam Adidaivam Kimuchate Adiyagya Katam Kotra Dehesmin Madhusudana Prayana Kale Chakatam Geyosim Niyatatmabi Shri Bhagavan Vacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Sabhavod Jatma Muchite Bhuta Bhavod Bhavakaro Sarga Karma Sanjita Adibhutam Sharo Bhava Purushashchari Daivatam Adiyogyo Hamevatra Dehe Deha Vatambara Antakale Chamameva Smaranukva Kalevaram Yaprayati Samadbhavam Yati Nasyatra Samshaya Yang Yang Vapi Smaran Bhavam Tajatyante Kalevaram Tam Tam Evaite Kaunteya Sadatat Bhava Bhavita Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mama Nusmara Yudhyacha Mayarpita Mano Budhir Mami Vaishyasya Samshaya Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena Chetasana Yagamina Paramam Purusham Divyam Yati Partanu Chintayan Kavim Puranam Manushashitaram Anonaniyam Samanusvaredyaha Sarvasya Dataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat Prayana Kale Manasa Chalena Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Padlina Chaiva Ruvar Madhye Pranamavishya Samyak Satam Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam Yadaksharam Veda Vado Vadanti Vashanti Yadyattayo Vitaraga Yadichanto Brahmacharyam Sharanti Tate Padam Sangrahena Pravakshe Sarvatvarani Samyamya Madohriti Narudyacha Murdyadhyayatmana Pranam Astito Yogadharanam Om Iti Aksharam Brahma Yaharan Mamarusvaram Yaprayati Tjajandeham Sadyati Paramam Gatim Ananya Cheta Satatam Yo mam smarati nityashaha tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yogina mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gata abrahma bhuvana loka punar avartinorjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanma vidyate sahasra yuga paryantam arhatyat brahmano vidu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vidojana avyaktadyakta sarva prabhavatya haragame ratyagame praliyante tatraivapyakta samyake bhuta gramas evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratyagame vashapartha prabhavatya haragame parastasmatu bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yaksak sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu navanashyati avyakto shara ityuktas tamahu paramam gatim yam prapya nanivartante tadhama paramam mama purushasa parapartha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya yasyantastani bhutani yena sarvam vidam tatam yatra kale tvanavratim avratim chaiva yogina prayatayanti tam kalam lakshami bharatarshava agnir jyotir ahashukla shanmasa uttarayanam tatra prayata gashanti brahma brahma vidojana dhumo ratristata krishna shanmasa dakshanayanam tatra chandrama samjyotir yogi prapya nivartate shukla krishne gati yete jagata shashvate mate ekaya yatyana vratim anyaya vartate puna naite sriti partha janan yogi muhyati kaschana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna vedeshu yagyeshu tapassu chaiva anishu yat punya palam pratishtam adyeti tat sarvamidam veditva yogi param stanu paiti chadyam om tat saditi Srimad Bhagavad-gita Supanishatsu Brahmavidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Sambhade Taraka Brahma Yogo Nama Ashtamo-dhyāyaha Hari Om. Please show the translations from chapter 8 from text number 23 onward, and then we'll read the purport to text number 27 also. So from 23 onward. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Have your own thing. From 23. So this is a section in this chapter. What's it called? The chapter? Which means? Oh, are you all working on that? Attaining the Supreme? Yes. This is relevant, right? Yes. Okay. Let's read the translations. In this section, Krishna explains how some people mechanically try to go out of this world, out of their bodies at a particular time so that they can attain a higher destination. But the devotees don't worry about it because they're always taking shelter of Krishna. Text 23. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God in the light, at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. According to Vedic opinion, there are 2 ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when one passes in darkness, he returns. Although the devotees know these 2 paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. Purport. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna is here advising Arjuna that he should not be disturbed by the different paths the soul can take when leaving the material world. A devotee of the Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart by arrangement or by accident. The devotee should be firmly established in Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna, which he should know that concern over whether, I'll get this, he should know that concern over either of these 2 paths is troublesome. The best way to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness is to be always dovetailed in his service, and this will make one's path to the spiritual kingdom safe, certain, and direct. SCD. The word yoga yukta is especially significant in this verse. One who is firm in yoga is constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness in all its activities. Sri Rupa Goswami advises everyone, Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjita. Extra credit for one who knows the whole verse. Take a microphone and say it. Work with me, people. Where's the mic? Mukharavinda wants extra credit. Well, he doesn't want any credit at all, but he's doing it out of duty. They'll bring it to you.
Anasaktasya vishayan yataram upayunjata nirbandha Krishna sambandha yuktam vairagyam uchyate.
Prapanchikataya budya
Hari sambandhi vastuna
mumukshavi prityago vairagyam bhalgukatyate. Extra credit. I highly recommend you write the verse down on a card and carry it around with you until you learn it. What do you think? Okay. One should be unattached in material affairs and do everything in Krishna consciousness. By this system, which is called Yukta Vairagya, one attains perfection. Therefore, the devotee is not disturbed by these descriptions, because he knows that his passage to the supreme abode is guaranteed by devotional service. Yes? Okay. Text 28. A person who accepts the path. We need a little drama here. Let's read this together, please. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. Srimad Bhagavad-gita ki jai. Divinity and Divine Service. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vyasuvacha iti samprashna samrishto Vipranam Romaharshani Pratipuja vachastesham Pravaktum upachakrame Sutta uvacha Yang pravajantam anupetam apeta krityam Dvaipayano viraha kartara ajuhava Putreti tanmayatayata ravo binedus Tang sarva bhuta hridayam munim anatosmi Yaksvanubhavam akila shruti saramekam Adhyatmadipam atititirshatam tamondam Samsarinam karunayaha puranakuyam Tam vyasasunum upayami gurun muninam Narayanam namaskritya Naram chaiva narottamam Devim sarasatim vyasam Tato jayam udirayet Munayak sadhu prashtoham Bhavadbir lokamangalam Yat krita Krishna samprashno Yenatmasu prasidati Savai pumsam paro dharmo Yato bhaktir adhokshaje Ahaitu kiya pratiyata Yayatmasu prasidati Vasudeve bhagavati Bhakti yoga prayojita Janayat yashu vairagyam Jnanam chayadahaitukam Dharma swanushtita pumsam Vishvaksena katasuya Notpada yed yadirating Shrama eva hi kevalam Dharmasya hyapavargasya Nartortayo pakalpate Nartasya dharmaikantasya Kamolabhaya hi smrita Kamasya nendriya pritir Labo jiveta yavata Jivasya tattva jignasa Narto yascheha karma bhi Vadanti tat tattva vidas Tattvam yajnana madvayam Prameti paramatmeti Bhagavaniti shabdyate Tashradadhana munayo Jnana vairagya yuktaya Paschantyatmane chatmanam Bhaktya shutta grihitaya Atak pumbir dvija shreshta Varnashrama vibhagasha Swanushti sasya dharmasya Samsadhir haritoshanam Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan sattvatam pati Shotavya kirtitavyascha Dheya pujascha nityada Yad anudyasina yukta Karma granti nabandhanam Chindanti kovidastasya Kona kuryat kataratim Shushrusho shradhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nashevana Shinvatam Swah Katha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridyantaksto Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhritsatam Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tadarajastamo Bhava Kamaloba Dayashchaye Cheta Iter Anavidham Stitam Sattve Prasidati Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogata Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate Vidyate Hridaya Grantish Chijante Sarva Samshaya Shiyante Chasya Karmani Krishna Eva Manishvare Ato Vai Kavayo Nityam Bhaktim Paramaya Muda Vasudeve Bhagavati Kurvantyatma Prasadanim Sattvam Rajastama Iti Prakritir Gunastar Yukta Para Purusha Eka Ihasyadate Stityadaye Hari Varinshi Hareti Sankhya Shreyamsi Tatra Kalu Sattva Tanornranam Su Hartivad Dharano Dhumas Tasmadagnistrayimayaha Tamasastu Rajastasmad Sattvam Yad Brahmadarshanam Pejire Munayo Tagre Bhagavantam Adoksajam Sattvam Vishudham Shemaya Kalpante Yenutan Iha Mumukshavo Gaura Rupan Hitva Bhuta Patinata Narayana Kalashanta Bhajanti Hyanusuyava Rajastama Prakritaya Samashila Bhajanti Vai Pitrir Bhuta Prajeshadin Shri Aishvarya Prajepsava Vasudeva Paraveda Vasudeva Paramaka Vasudeva Parayoga Vasudeva Parakriya Vasudeva Param Jnanam Vasudeva Param Tapaha Vasudeva Parodharmo Vasudeva Paragati Sa evedam sasarjagre Bhagavanat Mamayaya Sarasadrupaya Chasau Gunamaya Guno Vibhu Taya Vilashite Shveshu Guneshu Gunavan Eva Antak Pravishta Abhati Vijnanena Vrajrimbrita Yata Yavhito Vanir Darushveka Sayonishu Naneva Bhati Vishvatma Bhuteshu Cha Tatapuman Asau Gunamayer Bhaver Uta Sukshmendriyatmabi Swanirmiteshu Nirvishto Punkte Bhuteshu Tadgunan Bhavayat Yesha Satvena Lokan Vai Loka Bhavana Lila Vataranurato Devachiryan Naradashu Iti Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsyam Samitayam Pratamaskande Namashyo Prakyane Dvitiyodayaya Hari Om. And now Monisha will read the translation and purport to text number 25. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please start with the word for word, and then give your commentary after you read it.
Pejire rendered service unto Munaya, the sages, Atha, thus, Agre, previously, Bhagavatam, unto the personality of Godhead, Adoksajam, the transcendence, Sattvam, existence, Vishuddham, above the three modes of nature, Shemaya, to derive the ultimate benefit, Kalpante, deserve, Ye, those, Anu, follow, Tan, those, Iha, in this material world. Translation. Previously, all the great sages rendered service unto the personality of Godhead due to his existence above the three modes of material nature. They worshipped him to become free from material conditions and thus derive the ultimate benefit. Whoever follows such great authorities is also eligible for liberation from the material world. And purport. The purpose of performing religion is neither to profit by material gain, nor to get the simple knowledge of discerning matter from spirit. The ultimate aim of religious performances is to release oneself from material bondage and regain the life of freedom in the transcendental world, where the personality of Godhead is the supreme person. Laws of religion, therefore, are directly enacted by the personality of Godhead, and except for the Mahajans, or authorized agents of the Lord, no one knows the purpose of religion. There are 12 particular agents of the Lord who know the purpose of religion, and all of them render transcendental service unto him. Persons who desire their own good may follow these Mahajans and thus attain the supreme benefit.
Please bring her the verse that starts with Swayambhu Narada Shambhu. Someone grab it. Swayambhu Narada Shambhu. Go ahead, give your commentary.
This verse is very powerful because it talks about how we should follow in the footsteps of those devotees who already know Krishna and know the path to attaining success, and by following them we can also slowly attain perfection. And then also it talks about how the process of spirituality is very significant because it's beyond the three modes of material nature, and it goes beyond liberation and just material existence and material things.
Put the word for word back, please. And just refer to any of the word for words and give a verse related to it from the Bhagavad-gita, Sri Upanishad, Upadeshamrita, or anywhere else. Could you put up the word for word again, please? We lost it. How about Adhoksajam? That relates to what you were talking about, being beyond the three modes of material nature.
Adoksajam means the transcendence.
It's referring to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So give a cross verse from the Sri Upanishad that talks about the transcendence and how he's not related to the material world.
I don't. Okay, this verse could be related indirectly, but in the Upanishad it says the Supreme Lord walks and he does not walk. He's far away, but he's very near as well. I'm forgetting the rest.
He's within everything.
He's within everything and without everything, or within everything and outside of everything.
Quote the verse.
Forgetting that.
Call a friend.
Tadejati, tadnaijati, tadure, tadvantike, tadantar asya sarvasya, tadu sarvasya sya bhayata.
Bravo. Any other comments? Comments on the verse? Cross references? work with me, people. Yes?
There is a verse in 3rd canto, 25th chapter, second last verse, where the word Shemaya also comes to derive the ultimate benefit. It goes like this: Jnana Vairagya Yuktena Bhakti Yogena Yogina Shemaya Pada Moolam Me Pravishante Ya Kuto Bhayam. So, through Bhakti Yoga, we can derive the ultimate benefit.
Very nice cross-reference. Do you want to look at the verse?
3rd canto, 25th chapter, second last verse.
43? Who can remember what number it is? 3, 25. Who's speaking? Should know automatically. Not you. You know, Ardita. Who's speaking in this verse? Kapila Deva is correct. Go ahead. Unless it's Devahuti. Okay, read the translation. Together. The yogis equipped with transcendental knowledge and renunciation and engaged in devotional service for their eternal benefit take shelter of my lotus feet, and since I am the Lord, they are thus eligible to enter the King of Godhead without fear. Bravo. Nice reference. Now, when you give your class on Bejare Muniyo Tagre, which is which verse number? 25. Then you can learn this verse too and include it along with Tadejati, Tanaijati, Tadure, Tadvantike. Anything more you want to say about this as related to the other verse?
It wasn't particular to this verse, but I got reminded of the verse here on Mayina Patrina, and which that verse talks about how the Supreme Lord has a face. So it's kind of also talking about how it's beyond, like we know there's God and it's beyond the modes of material nature and material world.
He's beyond the modes of material nature. Does anybody know what the meaning of adhoksaja is?
Beyond the senses.
Beyond the senses. And Prabhupada also says, you may have heard this in a lecture, he says, adhoksaja means it's indicating the entire alphabet. And he said, he's beyond the entire alphabet to describe. Because he's transcendental to the material world. O and and cha. Can you look it up where he says that? We'll read it later. Any other comments about the process of hearing shlokas or cross-referencing or anything that you heard so far? We need fresh realizations. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. It's really nice to get into the Shastra. Sometimes we may go down a rabbit hole in the name of doing research, and we kind of get lost. I don't know if it's ever happened to any one of you. You look up something and you end up somewhere else. But if we absorb our mind in Shastra and we get entangled in the nectar of the lotus verses that glorify Krishna, then that will just captivate. It will completely attract our mind and our intelligence, and it will be very soothing for our heart. And time will go by, and we won't lament later on that, oh, why did I click that thing and follow that trail?
Thanks, Prabhu. Very well. I liked how Navina Prabhu pointed out that we can get entangled in the process of Shastra. Just as much as you can get entangled in TikTok, and the mind just, as Prabhu said, you click the wrong thing, and next thing you're down a rabbit hole. You could go down the rabbit hole of Shastra also. And how do you feel about when you're repeating these verses on a regular basis? Do they ever come back to you during the day? Do you hear them in your mind? Sometimes? Which verse did you hear in your mind? Or part of a verse? Anybody? Yes?
Or from the second chapter of the first canto, Shushushosha Dhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syama Hatsevaya Vipa Punya Tirtani Sevana So I'm always thinking if I can just serve, try to render service to the great devotees, I'll be able to actually hear properly.
It's a guidance, isn't it? Like, what do I do now? And then the verse comes and guides us. Anybody else have the experience when we're chanting these verses? Yes?
This is a little funny, but every time in school I'm taking a test and I sometimes forget the answer to one of the questions. I remember the verse Sarvasya Vishnu, and I just pray to Krishna, and I'm getting the remembrance from him. So
very good. This is what we heard earlier about dovetailing everything. Whatever we're doing in our life, we connect it to Krishna. Anasaktasya vishayan, the verse we're going to all learn, right? Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjita. So it's important every day to have a set that you repeat. I mean, if you're going to school, make sure you do your shlokas before you start going into the class. Then you'll have that base. And then when you memorize the whole chapter, then when you're driving somewhere, you know, it'll take me this long to finish the chapter before I get there. And you can keep the vibration going. Otherwise, you'll notice a difference if you just chit-chat. Does anybody ever chit-chat? What does it sound like? It's not. I'm not saying we can't hang out and talk, but I'm just saying most of the time, what does it sound? It's a little superficial, and it can just meander here and there and just talk about anything. But if at least when you come together and you chant a chapter of Bhagavad-gita, it gives okay, if you're going to have a meal, make sure you take the staples before you have. What's the extra thing? The sweet. You better have some protein, carbohydrate. So, in any outing or meeting or conversation, if you can include some Krishna Katha to have your staples before you start talking about how everyone's doing and the weather and everything like that. And if they're devotees, it's related anyway. Vidura asked to Uddhava about how the Yadus were doing, even though he knew they'd already passed away. He had a psychological need to inquire about it. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. And now we'll chant the Jagannath Ashtakam. And the two verses that we learned in Los Angeles. Okay? Because tomorrow's Rathyatra, right? Haribo. Kadachit nindita tavipina sangita. Everyone together. Murabiri nari vadana kamana damadupa. Namarapati Ganesha Tikapado Jagannatha Swami Narana Patagani Avatune Jagannatha Swami Narana Patagani Avatune Savedenum Shirasi Shikipitsham Gatitate Kulam Netrante Sacharata Kaksham Vidatate Sada Srimad Vrindavana Vasati Lilo Ishayo Jagannatha Swami Narana Patagami Avatune Jagannatha Swami Narana Patagami Avatune Maham Bodheshire Kanakaruchire Balabhadrena Balina Subhadramadhyasta Sakala Sura Seva Vasarado Jagannatha Swami Nana Pastakani Avadune Jagannatha Swami Nana Pastakani Avadune Paparavara Sajala Jala Dashre Niruchiro Rama Vani Rama Sura Rama Lapanke Ruhanuka Surendra Raja Shutikana Shika Gita Charita Jagannatha Swami Nana Pastakani Avadune Jagannatha Swami Nana Pastakani Avadune Rataruto Gachampa Nilita Budeva Patalai Pradurbhavam Pranamukha Kanya Sudaya Jaya Sindhur Bandhu Sakala Jagatam Sindhu Sudaya Jagannatha Swami Nayana Pastakani Avadune Jagannatha Swami Nayana Pastakani Avadune Para Brahma Pida Tuvalaya Dulot Pulanayano Nivasini Lagrani Hita Charano Nyanta Shirasi Rasanando Radha Sarasa Vapura Lingana Sukho Jagannatha Swami Nana Pastakani Avadune Jagannatha Swami Nana Pastakani Avadune Navayache Rajam Nakshakana Kamanikya Vibhavam Nayacheham Ranyam Sakala Janakamyam Varavadhun Sadakale Kale Pramata Patina Gita Charito Jagannatha Swami Nayana Pastakani Avadune Jagannatha Swami Nayana Pastakani Avadune Haratam Samsaram Drutasaram Asaram Surapate Haratam Papanam Vitatim Aparam Yaravavate Ahudine Nate Nita Charano Nishitamidam Jagannatha Swami Nana Pastakani Avadune Jagannatha Swami Nana Pastakani Avadune Priya Soyam Krishna Sahachari Kuru Kshetra Militas Katha Hamsa Radha tat idam uvayo sangama sukam Katyam kelan madura murali panchama jushe Mano me kalindi purina vipinaya srihayati Mano me kalindi purina vipinaya srihayati Yako maraharasa eva hibara Jagannathashtakam punyam ya patet prayaka shuchi sarva papa vishuddhatma vishnu lokam sagachyati. Who would like to give a little commentary on the two verses? Just put up the translations and then somebody please give a commentary. Say whatever you can about these two verses. Yes.
The first verse is, as it says, spoken by Radharani about how she misses Krishna in Vrindavan and seeing him in Mathura.
Kurukshetra.
Kurukshetra is not the same because she misses the village-like atmosphere. And the second verse is a film song that was sung by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which almost parallels this verse, but is about the film romance that was going on. And it's a good example of how we can use anything in the material world that we see that reminds us of Krishna and incorporate it in that same way.
Nice. Very good. Who can say more? If you know more, please say more. Yes.
I was thinking about the verse that we chant during the Mangalacharan, Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam, and how that relates to these two verses, because the second verse that we sing is the verse that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to sing during the Rathyatra, and everybody would be really confused about why he's singing it, because it doesn't seem like something you'd sing to the Lord. But then Rupa Goswami, after hearing Mahaprabhu sing this, he composed this parallel verse, which has like a very similar mood to it, but it's written in the mind of like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it sort of exemplifies the meaning of the Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam, because only Rupa Goswami could actually understand why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was singing this verse.
Very good. Excellent. Now we're going somewhere. So who can say just a little bit more? Maybe about the history of it, how it all happened. Pavani Bhakti.
I was remembering when you spoke in LA, Rathyatra, about these two verses. It was such a nice class, and you reminded all of us that here Radharani and everybody are at Kurukshetra getting Krishna. They want Krishna back to Vrindavan. Similarly, when we are pulling the ropes, we are bringing Krishna towards our heart, and that's what we are doing in during the Rathyatra. So with that mood, if we go to the Rathyatra, that this is where I am now bringing Krishna closer to my heart, and how can I keep my heart more and more clean and be a very pure person for Krishna to reside in my heart, because similar to how guests come to our home, we keep our homes very nice and clean. We need to make our hearts so pure with the process of chanting and all the devotional service that Krishna will say, yes, this is the house, the beautiful place I want to reside in.
Very nice. And so when people comes to our house, it may not even be a process of cleaning, but more of hiding. How can we get rid of all this stuff? Where can you cram it into the... But in devotional service, we actually try to really get down to the point of only having those things that are necessary for engaging in Krishna's service. Who can say a verse from the Upadeshamrita that indicates this as one of the main aspects of practicing devotional service? Go ahead, Anushri. You got it. If you got it wrong, just say it wrong and then we'll correct you. It has something to do with extremes. It starts with ati.
Atyahara prayashastra.
Don't say it as a question, say it as an answer. Go ahead.
Atyahara prayashastra prajalpo niyamagraham janasangasya lolyam cha shaktir bhakti vinashriti.
Explain a little bit, just the context of the verse, what it means, what's the first part.
Alright, so Atyahara prayashastra, the verse talks about 6 kinds of things we shouldn't do to advance the devotional service, like over-endeavoring, overeating, etc. And it's followed by 6 kinds of things we should do. So,
Can you name any of the things we shouldn't do? You can call a friend.
gossiping, prajalpa.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that word where you get 2 for 1. What's the word where you get two for 1? A twofer. Niyamagraha. It's like what's niyamagraha mean? Give it to Tulsi, she'll explain.
I don't remember which pronunciation is which, but one of them...
I'll give you a way to remember it. Like niyamagraha, it's like it's extended, the vowel is extended. So you're doing it just for the sake of doing it. And niyamagraha, like ugh. Like, oh, you gave up altogether.
Well, yeah, so one of them is basically overextending, that principles are going out of the way for what's actually prescribed. And then the other one is essentially doing it according to your whims.
Yeah, it's like you're doing it, but you're not aware of why you're doing it. You're just doing it for the sake of doing it without considering anything. Is that possible, to do a practice without thinking about why you're doing it? Yes. That's niyamagraha. And niyamagraha means you just stop doing it. So he says don't do either one. You do it, but do it purposefully. Be in it. Be very conscious of why you're doing it. Yes?
And then the next 2 are jana sangha, which is associating with non-devotees.
What's that look like? What's associating with non-devotees look like? Give me an example.
Going out of your way to associate with them when it's not necessary.
Well, what do non-devotees do generally as compared to devotees, like on a Saturday morning?
Watch cartoons.
Okay.
And then
So jana sangha. Yeah, go ahead.
And then there's lolyam, which is greed.
Greed. Okay. And Prabhu said something too about, which one did you say? Over-collecting? No. Atyahara prayashas cha, prayashas. Balaram, any more? Over-collecting. Atyahara means, ati means extreme, so ahara means eating. Atyahara means extreme eating, or it also means extreme collecting. Atyahara prayashas. What is prayash? Prajalpo? Nimagraha, you get 2 for 1. Following rules and regulations but not knowing why you're doing it, or just giving them up altogether and just say, oh, I think I'll skip today. You skip one day, you skip a week. You skip a week, you skip a month. You skip a month, you skip a year. You skip a year, you skip a decade. You skip a decade, you skip a lifetime. And then he's like, oh, what happened? And then you have to beg Krishna next time you're in the womb, going like, I'll take it more seriously next time. Really, I will. So better to do it now, right? And then Janashangas Jalalyam Cha. Lalyam? Don't be greedy. Gaur Premanande Haribol. Srimad Bhagavatam class. Vanchakoptarishcha Kripasnabe Vacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sing Narayanam Namaskritya with the mic.
Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye.
Sing another verse.
Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Nashtiki.
Namaste. One more.
Shinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam.
Let us first offer our respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to all the great acharyas in the line of disciplic succession. And today we will discuss a few idioms and cliches in reference to the Shastra. We'll try to bring out some points all together, all of us, about these cliches. Oftentimes, well, cliche means something that's been used so much that you hardly even notice it anymore. And it's anathema to those who are trying to speak or write in a way that stimulates the mind, because we hear it so many times that is, we hear a phrase so many times that it barely penetrates our ears. We just take it for granted. But these came from somewhere. and they actually have meaning. It's just they've been overused. And today we'll look at a few of them, and then try to trace back through human psychology where they came from, and look in the Shastra and see if we can find a way to explicate them so that we can utilize them in our own lives. Does that sound okay? Yes. Now there's a concept called cat in the basket. And that is that once a priest was teaching his acolytes about how to perform a wedding. And as he was setting it up, and as all his students were watching him and writing down everything in their notebook, there was a rambunctious cat that came into the room again and again through a little hole that was in one of the walls. And I don't know what kind of church that was, with holes in the walls. But in any case, the cat was disturbing everybody, so the priest, a cat lover himself, called the cat over, ordered a little bowl of milk, and got a basket with a tiny little blanket inside. And he gave the cat some milk, and then he petted it until it purred, put it in the basket, and said, "Hey, you go to sleep now." And the cat fell fast asleep in the basket. So students, of course, observed everything. And several years later, when the priest was out of station, and the students were to perform the wedding, they went through their meticulous notes. And as they were about to start, one of them called out, "Wait a minute, where's the cat in the basket? We have to find a cat, put it in a basket." He gave him milk, and so they searched for a cat. They brought him in. They got some milk. They petted the cat, put him in the basket. He fell asleep and said, "Now we can start." And oftentimes we find in the practice of Krishna consciousness, there's a sense of niyamagraha. I'm doing something, but I don't know why I'm doing it. Where did it come from? Not just in Krishna consciousness. People do this by cultural momentum. Oftentimes people will be born into a tradition, and it's like, why do you do that? Well, everyone else does. That's just how I was raised. And we get attached to it on a visceral level, but not at a very meaningful level. So it's important in all aspects of our lives, based on the verse, anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjita, nirbanda krishna sambande yuktam vairagyamuchite, prapanchikataya buddhya harisambandi vastina, mumukshavi prityagyo vairagyam palgukatyate, that we learn how to connect everything with Krishna, everything. And if we renounce things in the world without seeing their relationship to Krishna or how they can be utilized, this is called Falgu Vairagya. And why is it called that? Because there's a river, Falgu, and it's dry on top. But if you put your hand in the sand and push it down a little further, you're going to find that there's some water there running beneath the ground. And in a similar way, those who renounce the world based on a superficial understanding, underneath are actually attached to the material world. So through the process of Krishna consciousness, we come to see how everything relates to Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was teaching grammar and logic to his students, remember that when he did that? Were any of you there? Maybe. You were in the class. And he related everything to Krishna. He had actually, through the association, apparently, of Srila Ishvara Puri, become so filled up with love for Krishna after his initiation. Then when he came back and he taught in his normal classes, everyone thought, well, this is different. Everything means Krishna. Krishna's everywhere. Krishna's within everything, within all these words. And it's actually true. The origin of everything is Krishna, correct? Yes. Can you prove it? Okay, give me 3 verses to prove it, that Krishna is the origin of everything. Krishna Saka with the microphone for full credit. Otherwise, you get only 1% credit.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. All the material and spiritual worlds emanates from me. And then, the rest. So, everything comes from Krishna. Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita.
The verse says a little more about the attitude of somebody who realizes that. Very good, by the way. But can you say more? Who can say more about the verse? There's a lot in this verse. Work with me, people. You can always grab a Bhagavad-gita. They're in the cupboard back there. Grab a Gita. Go ahead. Extra points for Balaram because he actually got up and got a Gita. Feel free to take any resource. You can look on your phone. You can call a friend, ask somebody. It's all available to us. So in studying Shastra, or just one Gita is okay, or whatever you like, just look it up. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate. Yes. Say more. Go ahead.
I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
See, that's a very important part. The wise who fully know this worship me with all their hearts. So when we have this sense that Krishna is within everything, within the various movements in the world, for instance, the time factor is Krishna, right? Say yes. So how could you prove that in the Bhagavad-gita? Where does it say that anywhere in Shastra that Krishna is time, the time factor? Where? Say in the mic.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Rema.
I don't know the full verse.
That's all right. Just, even if you have a fragment of verse, don't apologize for it. Just boldly put it forward. And then everyone will think, well, you know the whole thing anyway. But you don't have to know the whole thing. You just have to have, anywhere you can grab on is okay. Be confident and be bold.
Krishna says, I think, 11th verse.
No, I think, just say it.
Okay. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kalosmi Loka Akshayakrit Pravriddho Lokan Samahartamiha Pravrittaha Ritepi Tvamna Bhavishyanti Sarve Eva Stita Pratyanika Nikeshu Yodhaha. Kalosmi. Kalosmi means, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain.
Bravo, very well done. So, we can see Krishna within time. Can we see Krishna within water? How about if you get a drink of water? Who said yeah? So, is Krishna that taste? Prove it. That's a well-known verse, eh? Go ahead, do you know it? Who knows it? Yes? Mataji, go ahead. When she says it, you look it up.
Rasoham apsu kaunteyas pravasmi sasushuryaha
Pranavak
sarva vedeshu
Shabde
Shabda ke paurusham rishu.
So this verse says a lot, right? The first line says, Rasoham apsikonteya. So apsu, the taste of apsu, of water, is me. I'm the taste of water, Krishna says. So if you taste water, then you're tasting who? Correct. So, and then what's the rest of the verse say? Rasoham apsikonteya prabhashmi shashisuryayo. What does that mean? Okay, see if there's any light in here. You see the light of the sun? Is that Krishna? Can you prove it? Yes. Shabdake purusham nirshu. So ke means, is there ether? It's space. And shabda means sound. Shabdake purusham nirshu. So first, shabdake means within ether. K means within ether. Shabda ke, the sound within ether. You hear any sounds? How about this? You hear that? What is that? Krishna. Shabda ke purusham nirshu. Means? Do you ever see anybody does something that's unusual on TikTok? Did you see it? Someone could balance a bottle on their nose or something like that. What's that? Yeah, of course they're all puffed up thinking they did it, but actually it's Krishna doing. Parusham Dashu. Then Pranavak Sarveva. What's Pranavak? Everyone say, Om. What's that? It's Krishna. Pranavak Sarvavedeshu. In all the Vedas, this Omkar, Sarvavedeshu, Shabda Ke Purusham Dashu. Okay, Rasoham Apsakonteya Prabhashmi Shashishuryo Pranavak Sarvavedeshu. Shabda Ke Purusham Dashu. I just moved it to the second part. So, okay, so all those ways we can see Krishna within everything at all times. And then we can engage everything in his service, connect it to him. And that's the process of devotional service. And then when we do connect anything, any energy to Krishna, then what happens to it? Does it become spiritualized? Can you prove that from the Bhagavad-gita? We need solid proof. Give me a Sanskrit verse. Yes. Apargorangi. She's got the look, the smile on her face that Krishna revealed a verse to her. Go ahead.
I heard it for the first time here in the class. It's from the 4th chapter.
Yes.
Brahmarpano Brahmahave Brahmagno Brahmanautam Brahmaneva Higantavyam.
Brahma Karma Samadhina. Bravo. So, what is the example? Krishna's giving an analogy there. What's the analogy? It's a fire yajna, and you've all seen a fire yajna within recent memory, right? Yes. Okay. So, what do you need to do the fire yajna? You need ghee, right? Okay, you got to have ghee. No margarine, no corn oil. You got to use ghee. Okay, so you got ghee, and what else? What other things, tools are you going to use? Fire, wood, coconut, banana, spoon, some flowers, right? So all these things, Krishna says, because you're sitting there engaging him. And who does it? Srivas Pandit. So you got Srivas Pandit, you got the fire, you got the spoon, you got everything. There's bricks. So Krishna's saying, because all these things are right now being used as service to me, they all become Brahman. They're no longer matter. They become transformed into spirit. And Prabhupada mentions in his purport that this is the art of Krishna consciousness, transforming matter into spirit. Now, for 20 points, what is the most used analogy? What is Prabhupada's analogy that he most uses to explain this principle? Yes. Okay, got to be faster. We've got Krishna Saka here. You'll get your chance for 20 more points.
Srila Prabhupada compares iron and fire. Iron is, when we put iron in the fire for a long time, it becomes like fire. So anything which is material, when it is offered to Krishna, it can become Krishnized.
Perfect. And it's such a good analogy. You can use it to help people understand this principle, to remind yourself of the principle. Whatever you have, whatever you're doing, if you connect it to Krishna, then it becomes spiritualized. It becomes Brahman, because it's rightfully connected to Krishna, because everything's connected to Krishna. Now I have a trick question for 40 points if you want to make up for it. If you see something in your world, do you have a world? You all have a little world? Okay. We all have some world we live in. If you see something in your world and it's not related to Krishna, N-O-T, not related to Krishna, what is it? So you got to tell me what it is. It's illusion, but I want proof. Where's the verse that proves it? Uh-oh, come on, Mataji. Okay, everyone say what it is? No, not the verse. What is it when you see something? Let's see something. It's Maya. which means that which is not. And Mukaravinda Prabhu has the verse right on the tip of his tongue.
Riteyartham yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tat vidyadatmano mayam yatha bhaso yatha tama. So, Riteyartham yat pratiyeta, whatever seems to appear to be true without that is separate to me is a maya. That's what Brahma, Lord Krishna is saying to Brahma, and then and he gives an analogy of yatha bhaso yatha tama, like if there is no sunlight, without sunlight it appears darkness, is similar, like whatever is existing without my existence, that is maya.
Right, so this is Krishna speaking directly to his friend Brahma. How do you know Brahma and Krishna are friends? Because they shake hands at the end like this. And he says, Badram te. Badram te. Good luck, Brahma. Okay, so the first idiom or cliche that we'll go into is digging your own grave. Have you ever heard this before? You're digging your own grave. What does it mean and how does it relate to Shastra? How can you relate it? First, say what it means. If somebody says to somebody else, you're digging your own grave, what does it mean? Yes, Shamalangi.
So in like simple words, it will be like calling for own destruction, for your own destruction.
Give us an example, like some scenario,
somebody
like a mother saying it to a son or a daughter, like,
by smoking, like, if somebody's smoking, we can say that you're
digging your own grave.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's go a little bit into, does everyone agree with that? Digging your own grave? Have you ever heard it before? Yes. You're digging your own grave. So isn't that a funny kind of analogy? You got the shovel, you got a plot of land, and it's like somebody goes, hey, you're digging your own grave. So that's a little shocking, actually, if you think about it. So how does that relate to Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad-gita? Yes, Prabhu. We need a microphone for the back row. Hare Krishna.
I don't know if this is the right analogy, but I was thinking of the story of Avanti Brahmana from Bhagavatam, where he talks about his misfortune. And then he says, no one but me is responsible for my own suffering. So I was thinking of digging your own grave.
Why did you think it wasn't the right analogy?
I wasn't sure if that's what you had in mind.
We'll just boldly put it forth anyway. And if it's way off, then we'll all berate you and say, what a horrible thing you said. So say more about the Avanti Brahmana and the context. I think it's really nice what you're saying. Please expand upon it. And in the meantime, somebody grab the book where the Avanti Brahmana is explained. Who knows what canto it's from? 11th canto. Who knows who's speaking the story? Krishna. To whom? Uddhava. So it's in the Uddhava Gita, and Balaram's almost got it. So go ahead.
So from what I remember, he used to have materially good life, and then he goes through reversals where he loses his material life, family, and then he ends up in a really a big predicament. And he looks back on his life and he realizes that it's no one but ourselves are responsible for our suffering. And I think he also claims that the mind can be our biggest enemy, if I remember. Right. So he holds himself responsible for his misfortune.
Such a nice point you're making. So yes, Krishna points out to him, he's saying to Uddhava, and in relationship with the Avanti Brahmana, did you want to make another point? He says that the mind, you can find this verse, it's near the beginning of the chapter, the mind has fearsome godlike powers over the soul. And it's only for the sake of that errant mind that we've been in the material world since a time immemorial. And the Avanti Brahmana is famous. There's an utterance from the Avanti Brahmana in that chapter that has become a sannyas mantra. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uttered it right after he took sannyas, and therefore Srila Bhaktisiddhanta used to give it to anybody who takes sannyas. And because it's in the Bhagavatam, if you want to keep the mood of being a sannyasi in your heart, then you can say the verse too. Does anybody want to keep that mood in their heart? Yes. Sannyas. Nyas means where you place something. Like when we do this, Om. You say the verses when I do. Keshavaya Namaha. Yeah. So this is called a nyasa, where you place something, where it's properly placed. You put it in the place you're supposed to put it. And sang, as you know from Sankirtan, it means complete. So when you have this sannyas, you know where everything goes and how to utilize everything in Krishna's service. That makes you a sannyasi, because you know how to utilize everything for Krishna. So the verse, he says, is a verse of determination. Itam sa astaya parahatmanishtam adyasitam purvatamar maharshibi aham tarishami duranta param tamo mukundangri nishevayaiva. He declares, I shall cross over the insurmountable ocean of material existence by being firmly fixed in the service of Krishna. This was approved by the previous acharyas who were fixed in firm devotion to Lord Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that. And it comes from this story of the Avanti Brahmana. And we're discussing how this relates to the idiom, digging your own grave. And Prabhu pointed out that there's a way in which this relates to that, because he has this attitude that whatever I have now or don't have, it's because of my past activities. So just a little more about the Avanti Brahmana. He was a very wealthy agriculturalist. And there was a fault in his personality. He was very stingy. And he didn't give charity to anybody. He never gave back to the demigods. He was very wealthy. He could have given, but he didn't give. And one time he performed a yajna, and he had a little twinge of devotion in his heart. Now what happened to him over time was, because he was so stingy and he didn't give anything to the demigods, made no offerings, gradually he lost everything. And it came down to a point where he was homeless. Everyone left him, and he was now separated from his family. And what was left was, in all of that, fortunately, was that little spark of devotion that he had expressed when he did one of the yajnas. And this is what impelled him to go out and wander in the world and just dedicate himself to Krishna. And as he was moving about the world, he was mistreated everywhere he went, because everyone remembered that he was a stingy agriculturalist. And they berated him for taking this renounced order of life. They said, you're just a cheater. And they said in sarcastical ways, cynical ways, oh, look at you, you're so graceful as you move through the world, just like a duck. And sometimes people would beat him, sometimes people would urinate on him, sometimes they would throw feces on him, they would entrap him in certain places and criticize him. And what does the Avanti Brahmana say about all that? Well, one of the things he says is, who can you blame when you bite your own tongue? Anybody here ever bite your own tongue? Who did you blame? You look around. You can rail against the world, but you bit your own tongue. So he says, whatever is coming to me, I made that situation because of my activities. Who wants to expand on that with some Shastra? Who can give some references to other places in Shastra that talk about how Krishna's hand is in one losing something, what the attitude is when we end up in a certain situation where we feel bereft? Navina Prabhu.
Tatenu kampam susamikshamana bunjana evatma kritam vipakam Ridvagva bubir vidadan namaste jivetio muktipate sadaya bhak. This verse explains the attitude of a devotee who is accepting these reversals of fortune when things are taken away or things go south, and he's seeing it as the Lord's mercy, and he patiently waits, knowing fully well that it's part of Krishna's plan. Krishna has my best interest at heart. So such a devotee, such a person, liberation or bhakti is his rightful claim. It's his inheritance. He will ultimately reach it just by time. Just have to stay alive in Krishna consciousness.
This is the perfect application of this verse. And I'll just say something I heard from Mukunda, the Pandit, Mukunda Prabhu, Mukunda Dato, the Pandit. And so he was talking about the details of this verse. So Tatenu kampam susamikshamanu bunjana evatma kritam vipakam. Vipakam, what does that sound like? Kumbhipaka, if you've read the fifth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam about different hellish conditions. We can see on this earth we get half heavenly conditions, mostly in California, northern specifically, and also maybe Hawaii. And also you get hellish conditions. You go to Hawaii, there's still going to be ambulances driving around, and every once in a while a tsunami that kills everybody. So then there's lower regions where it gets more and more hellish. So one of them is Kumbhipaka. Kumbhipaka is a kind of place. God, this is a family show. Should I even say this? It's being broadcast. Okay, nobody freak out, but there's a place that people who take pleasure in boiling animals alive. And there was a poor little creature, and then they throw it in a boiling pot. And say, there you go. And everyone's waiting there. I'll just eat this now. So Bhagavatam says, well, there's a reaction for that you get to experience it for yourself. And that place is called Kumbhipaka, because you get boiled alive. Everyone okay? It's really horrible, actually, the whole thought of it. But the second line in the verse, Tatenu kampam susamikshamano bunjana evatma kritam vipaka, means I cooked myself. Like there's a huge pot that you could actually fit in. You fill it up with water. You put it on the stove. You turn on the heat. You get inside. You put a little spice. And you get a paddle and you're like stirring the pot, right? That's what it means. Like you lit the fire, you got in the pot, you're stirring it, you even put in turmeric and salt. And it's like, no. What are you cooking? Yourself. You cooked yourself. That's what it means. Bunjana evatma kritam vipakam. So this thing, you're digging your own grave. It's there in the verse, actually. That you got in the pot, you lit the fire, everything. This means taking full responsibility. Whatever I have now, whatever situation I'm in, I did it. I set myself up for it. And Krishna is just giving me a token of reaction so I know what it feels like. And it will help me. It will give me an impetus to give up the material world altogether. Who wants to say anything more about the first idiom, which is digging your own grave? Is the image sufficiently macabre to alarm us? Yeah.
I think about the example of Bharat Maharaj, like how he was completely practicing everything, and then because of the false compassion that he showed, he has to suffer next 2 lives.
Wow, that's pretty heavy. So Bharat Maharaj went off to do his sadhana in a lonely place, and then he got distracted, and Mukharvinda Prabhu was pointing out that who does he have to blame for giving up his practice? Well, who does he blame, by the way? Because he realizes his mistake when? In his next life. He's fully absorbed in the deer when he's leaving his body, right? And then in his next life takes birth as a deer, and Krishna gives him the opportunity to remember from that body of what he was in his previous. This is kind of a way to become sober. Have you ever been in a situation like that? Where you really blew it, and then you look back and you go like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Did you ever? Please say yes. Otherwise, I'm going to feel all alone here. Happens all the time. And not the least of which is mentioned in the Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned this pastime to his mother. You read about it in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, that the soul within the womb comes to consciousness as the body's developing around it, and then remembers that, oh, I've done this so many times, and every time I come into this situation, I promise that I'm going to serve you, my Lord. And then as soon as I get pushed out of the birth channel and my senses get reconnected with their objects in the material world, I totally forget. And I pass through a whole lifetime of forgetfulness, and then I end up back in the same place. And I'll say again and again, oh, please. So, please let me serve you. So the soul sometimes prays that, let me just stay here where I'm in full awareness. I don't want to move from this place. I just want to stay here. That's how vital it is. And when somebody actually remembers their position as a servitor of Krishna. So, Bharat Maharaj, yes, please, go ahead.
I wanted to add to Prabhu's point, the example of Bharat Maharaj, I think, is very nice, because when you say you're digging your own grave, it's usually when the other person thinks they're doing something really good for themselves, when they think this is the right thing. Like in the case of Bharat Maharaj, he genuinely thought that like it was out of his compassion and love for other living entities that he got attached to the deer in that way. And he, in that moment, like most people would appreciate that and celebrate that. Would be like, wow, you're doing such a great service. But at the end of it, he was actually digging his own grave, because he was moving away from Krishna. So I really like that example.
Yeah, Balaram just brought it to another level. This psychological nuance of the fact that he thought he was doing the right thing and just boldly went into that. And that that's possible. Is it possible we get involved in a activity that's detrimental to us, and then we don't want to hear any advice from anybody? It's possible, right? So one of the ways that Bharat Maharaj could have helped himself, and of course he's showing by example what not to do. The Bhagavatam has these examples, as is mentioned by Sanatana Goswami in the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. Those like Bharat Maharaj are showing us like this is what can happen if you're not really careful. If he had some good, yeah, go ahead, Sadhu. If he had made sure to have good association, or someone he could have texted or something. Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, actually Shastra is texting me some verses. He can't speak right now.
Yes, please, go ahead from Shastra.
He texted me Janmad Yasya Yaton Vayad Iteratas, the first verse of the Bhagavatam, but basically it talks about day by day everyone is going to Yamaloka. And what is more fast?
It talks about day by day what?
It talks about day by...
Go ahead, Shastra.
Hare Krishna. I think no, I was sending Janmad Yasya Yataha for everything pervades from the Lord. And the verse I sent for digging one's own grave, I was sending Ahanyahani Bhutani Gachanti Hayamalayam Sheshastavaram Ichanti Kemashtaryamata Param. That day by day, everyone is going to the abode of Yamaraj, but they have this, they're very, very keen on eternally staying where they are. What is more fascinating than this? Was the verse that I sent for marriage.
Very good. Also, quote another verse that talks about how when Krishna takes away everything, he's showing his mercy to the devotee. Who wants to quote it? Okay, Pavani Bhakti. Thank you, Shastra Sar. Keep them coming.
I was thinking about the story of Ajamila, where he was a very nice Brahmin when he grew up, but he fell down, and in the end of his life, he regretted. But I was thinking, like, Krishna is so merciful that even if he unconsciously chanted his name, he didn't mean to call Krishna, but Krishna, as a, like, loving father, he just wants us back by any condition. And I was thinking, like, there are so many curses, famous curses in Srimad Bhagavatam, where devotees messed it up, and Krishna, by way of curse, actually helped them back, like, Nala Kubera, Manigriva, Gajendra. So everybody did mistakes, but I was thinking that there is a lot of hope for us from all these stories, that Krishna wants us back.
Yeah. This is the best point, because although the material world is onerous place to live, and also there's ample opportunity to make mistakes, and I've obviously made mistakes in the past, just a little bit of attention towards devotional service, sincerity, Krishna immediately picks us up. And there's ways in which the Shastra explains that once you've started on the path of devotional service with an intention that I'm going to surrender to Krishna, then even if you still have worldliness in you, that Krishna doesn't count that. He keeps encouraging us in various ways that are appropriate so that we can make advancement in devotional service. As an example, in the Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says, Api chet sudaracharo bhajate mam ananyabha sadhur eva samantavya samyag vyavasito hisa. Api chet means even if somebody is sudarachara, which means they're really entangled in the material world still. They do something that's very worldly. If such a person is engaged in devotional service, and it's not to be taken advantage of, that negates it. If I think, well, I'll just do devotional service and then do whatever I want, then you're committing an offense. And that's dishonest. You have to be sincere. If you're sincere and you're trying, but you're still overwhelmed by this worldliness and the temptations in the material world, Krishna says, still everyone, he's talking to everyone, said you have to consider this person to be saintly, because they're trying and they're in the proper path. And in the next verse he says, Shurpram bhavatitan matma shashvat shantim negachati konteya pratijanihi name bhakti pranashati. It's guaranteed. He says to Arjuna, you tell everybody in the world, it's guaranteed this person is going to come to the perfect stage, because devotional service is so potent. So we should be encouraged, even though we find ourselves in a hole. What's the advice you give somebody when they find themselves in a hole? Stop digging. So take up devotional service. I'll just read a couple more points from this section. You have a point. Please go ahead.
Verse where Krishna deprives that, so it's in 10th canto 1088:8. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yasyaham Anugrahinani Harishye Tad Dhanam Shanay Tato Dhanam Tyajantasya Swajana Dukkha Dukkhitam. And the meaning is, the personality of Godhead said, if I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him. In this way, he suffers one distress after another. So,
how many here would like to be specially favored by the Lord? Come on, put your hand up. Don't be afraid. Krishna's not going to hurt you. Okay, a couple points. That is, to be self-aware. Make sure we're not putting ourselves at a disadvantage. Be aware of how we're conducting ourselves, how we're organizing our lives. Don't put yourself at a disadvantage. Try to help yourself. Second is, if you find yourself in a hole, okay, you must understand that you've dug your own grave. I can be a victim and say, someone else did this to me, but I'm in this situation now because of me, and because of the ways in which I have moved in the world, not just in this life, but in previous lives also. The law of karma says that there is momentum coming into this life from my previous stopovers in various bodies and the ways I have moved in the world. Okay, there's more to be said about that, but I want to give one other idiom that we can look at, just for variety. Okay, have you ever heard the phrase, old wine in a new bottle? So how does it relate to devotional service? First of all, what does it mean? Old wine in a new bottle, meaning of the phrase. We take things for granted, including those phrases. Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So the meaning of old wine in a new bottle means you're just given the same thing with a different packaging.
Okay, I'll give you an example. What's that new bubbly water? It's not new, actually. It's just repackaged. The most famous one comes in a can now. Not Coke. It's just flavored water. Look, who said it? LaCroix. How do you spell that? LACROIX. That means LaCroix. Anybody heard LaCroix? I'm not advertising it necessarily, although it's not bad. LaCroix actually used to come in a different container. And then the company heads got together and decided, because we're losing market share to a lot of other bubbly water companies, like who? Evian, San Pellegrino. Okay, those are two. They're losing market shares to these two. So they decided, we're going to rebrand, repackage. So they did an extensive campaign to find focus groups, people who would taste the water, look at the packaging, and say what they thought would be best. So in that exercise, the executives in the company also gave their opinions of how they should position themselves, and they thought they would compete with, what's the other one I said? San Pellegrino and Perrier. You know Perrier? It's a water with some of it has bubbles in it, and then it's advertised it comes from a French glacier or something like that. So there's a sense, and it's more expensive. If you buy water at the airport, then you'll notice that it's $1.50 more at least than the other waters. So they thought, let's compete with Perrier, and we'll have a fancier bottle. But when it came back from all the focus groups, they said, we want like an every person's water, and it wants to be fun. And they gave these ideas about, let's dumb it down a little bit. Put it in a can rather than in a bottle. And then they wanted bright colors, and they wanted it to look like festive and stuff like that. So that's what they did, because the evidence for it was overwhelming. And so they rebranded, and they put it in this new can. Do you like the can? Yeah. So the can's kind of fun, and they have a few flavors. And then they're product became very popular. Now you get it anywhere. And people buy it by the caseload. LaCroix. It's water, and it's got bubbles in it. Now it's in a can rather than a bottle. It's the same as it ever was. But everyone now is attracted to it because it's in a new container. So it's an old product, same thing that's ever been there in a new bottle. So punak punas charvita charvananam. Prahlad Maharaj says his expressions of what he learned about in school. He didn't actually say what he learned in school. He told his father what he learned from his guru, Narada Muni, that everything we have in this world is just recycled. It's the same thing over and over again, but just in a new package. And you think you're going to get something out of it. If you take the fizz out of LaCroix or Coca-Cola or anything like that, will you drink it? It's just a little tiny edge to it because, well, it has a little fizz to it. And everyone thinks, oh, this is something great. But in the material world, these things come and go. The fizz goes out of everything. And if you look at things for what they are and realize that they're the same thing recycled and that they come and go, Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, Yehi samsparshaja boga jukayonaya evate ajantavanta konteya nate shuramate buddha. Said a wise person doesn't get infatuated with these repackaged, recycled goods because they know that it comes and goes. And it's the same thing, punak punas charvita charvananam. It's already been done before in many different ways by many different people since time immemorial, and nobody got anything ultimately good out of it, and therefore not interested in investing in that. So old wine in a new bottle means to remember that sense gratification over and over again, it's the same old thing. There's only one new thing in this world, and that's Krishna. So when we're able to remember that the only fresh thing comes from the spiritual world, like the Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada Muni advertises, Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo. It's not from this world. It's not from the closed universe where everything's recycled. You got something that's actually new. The real fizz. We want that fizz. We want that stimulation that, whoa, that's new. That's hitting my taste buds. But it doesn't happen in the material world. It comes and goes, and it becomes a disappointment. But not Srimad Bhagavatam. That has the real thing. And not the holy name that has the real thing. So we have to try to get the substance that you can't get anywhere in the material world. It's not repackaged, rebranded, same old thing, same song. You get the same songs in every era of the world, just recycled a little bit. And they're all about the same topic, love lost. My dog up and left me. She drove away with the pickup truck. And here I am on the porch, alone, again. Boo-hoo. So everyone's crying. They write it in more eloquent language, but it's the same theme. That originally comes from the spiritual world, but it's the real thing. It's the adiras. There's a relationship there that's endlessly fascinated. All the soap operas in the world, they're just a tiny little reflection of that, like a firefly compared to the sun. So if we can get the real substance and the real fizz, imagine how happy we'd be to get that instead of getting that which is recycled old wine in a new bottle. So this morning, we did some hearing and chanting together. Who can recap everything that we did, starting from, let's just say, the japa, make japa great again. Let's remember just for a minute everything we talked about. Go ahead. Kota Karnava. Tell us what we won.
Hare Krishna. We discussed the different ways how we can get to chanting 16 rounds.
Could we put the fan on? We need more air. We have nothing against air, right? Okay, go ahead.
So, why do we chant again and again? Because we want to remember what. I mean, we want to come back to the basics every day, start every day fresh. And so how do we get to 16 rounds to listen the glories of the holy name? Holy name is non-different from Krishna. Holy name fulfills all the desires. The having a sankalpa, sense of urgency, and then enactment of helplessness. So there are different details that we discussed how we can do that.
Thank you. Thanks for remembering. Make japa great again. Then what did we do? What songs did we sing? Take the mic. Tell us what we sang.
We began with O He Vaishnava Thakura, and then we went to Ujjvala Varna, and then we did we recited the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, and then we also did Divinity and Divine, and then we did Jagannath Ashtakam, and those are all
2 verses.
And then the 2 verses, the Priya verse,
and we discussed them, right?
Yeah.
How did it make you feel chanting all those shlokas and verses? Did you have some bhav?
Yes, I was.
My godbrother in Vrindavan, he used to come up to me all the time. Bhuvaneshwar Prabhu. He was a bit of a curmudgeon. He was a very humorous person and also kind of a grouch. He cooked the Raj Bhog offering in Vrindavan for decades. He lived in a little room. He was a brahmachari, but he was in his 70s when he passed from the world during the pandemic. But he'd always come up to me. Mangalarti goes, I can't get no bhav. So it's good. You got a little bhav. You got to get a little bhav every day, right? Feel that, yeah, I got something from this. Otherwise, niyamagraha, we're just doing it, and we don't know why we're doing it just by rote. You didn't actually penetrate. You didn't get some inspiration in the heart that makes you feel like, wow, life's worth living. I want to tell somebody else how nice this is. Okay, what else did we do? We sang.
Yep.
Jai Radha Madhava. Tell us about the song.
Yeah, Jai Radha Madhava we sang and Hare Krishna mantra, and after that...
Where does the song come from?
From the Gita Avali of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur.
Nice.
And then after that we went through some of the idioms. One was cat in the basket, and then don't dig your own grave.
I don't think it's a cliche yet, because not that many people know about cat in the basket, but it's more of I was kind of a preamble. I was just framing how we take things for granted, and we just assume we know what they are or why we're doing it, but we don't. And then cliches are an example of that. You just say something, it rolls off your tongue, but you don't think of the deep meaning of it. And then we talked about a couple of the ones that are definitely overused. Go ahead.
So yeah, the one is that digging your own grave and old wine in the new bottle.
Right. And now when you hear those or use them, you'll think of it in a slightly different way maybe, right? Okay. And now we're going to have announcements to talk about our opportunities for service today. And do we have, okay, go ahead. We'll have Bhakti Community from Pavani Bhakti. And Jai Madhava Prabhu. Or from Jai Madhava Prabhu and Pavani Bhakti.
Hare Krishna. I'm hoping it's coming, yeah. So as you know, Bhakti Community is an online community focused on introducing Bhakti community to Bhakti to newcomers. So whenever you go and distribute books, please do share Bhakti community information with them. So you can find the information about how to introduce at this web URL, bhakticommunity.com/invite-newcomers, or email hi@bhakticommunity.com. Wanted to share that we have new marketing materials coming up. We have a brochure which is coming up, which will provide, of course, introduction about Bhakti community, but also introduce Bhakti itself in a simplified way to newcomers and all the various key principles that we follow. So this can be handed out along with books. Thanks to Dev Prasanna Prabhu, who helped in adjusting this together. And we also have new bookmarks where we also have the program information laid out. So thanks to Krishna Prabhu for this idea, I believe, or Kautukana Prabhu, I forget. One of you both requested. And this will be easy for the newcomers to know what programs are there when, so that will be coming out. So do watch out. And thanks to Venudhari Prabhu for always helping us out in handing this over. So please, he has handed out, I don't know, more than 100,000, I think, easily, or 250,000 of these bookmarks easily. So thank you so much, Prabhu. Next is newcomer introduction. Thanks to Krishna Prabhu. He introduced Stephen, who came in this week. I think Stephen, Krishna Prabhu met him in Benicia, near Vallejo. That's what he said. And he was pretty enthusiastic, definitely has his own thoughts and not hesitating to share them. So thank you for bringing him in. And also Loka and Vidarbha Prabhu, they introduced Turtle Angelo from San Diego. She joined and she did mention that the program time sometimes clashes with her office, but she was able to finally join and she was very happy to get all the information. And I'll give it to Pavani to quickly talk about Bhakti Community Manipal University.
Hare Krishna. Some of our Bhakti community participants, they attended LA Rathyatra, and I was traveling with them in the bus. And we were talking so many things about the yatra and everything. So I wanted to just share that people were talking about the series of unfortunate events that have happened in their life, and how that series is now changing to series of fortunate events, and they were able to connect everything to Krishna, and we were like talking really, we felt really good about the reflections from the newcomers. They got good experience of traveling with ISP devotees. ISP is a very, very welcoming community, so thank you everyone for always being there with the newcomers. And in the bus especially, they were feeling very special. They could get experience of book packing, so much service. They want more now to do more for San Francisco Rathyatra, the book packing. So thank you everyone for your combined efforts to help these newcomers. I also want to share the good news that Manipal University, it's a university in India who do preaching program. For many, many years they are doing this program. Apara Gaurangi Mataji, our own Apara Gaurangi Mataji, she was part and parcel of this whole system. She also a university. Oh, you are here. I will just call you a little bit. Yeah. I thought you were online. She was, actually, she's a product of university preaching herself. She was introduced to Krishna consciousness as part of university preaching, and this was her way to give back. And even after she came in Bay Area, she was still connected with the group. The group reached out to us. They attended many of our Bhakti Circle and Bhakti On programs, and they wanted to do the same thing with the girls that they are preaching in the university. So they ran their first program of Bhakti Circle last week, and the reflection came from the Mataji, who was doing it for 8 years, that for the first time ever, she was not the only one talking, and everybody was talking because of the way the program was structured. So I want to thank Apara Gaurangi Mataji so much for inspiring them and connecting them to Bhakti community. Actually, one of the mentors there, they told me that Apara was the best preacher in their group, and I had no idea about it, and I could now connect the dots, because whenever any newcomer comes, she has her own special ways of learning and teaching the newcomers. One common favorite question she asks them is, what's your favorite food? And then the discussion really goes very deep and personal. So I'm learning a lot from her. Apara, would you like to say a few words about this program? Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks to James Prabhu and Pavani Mataji. They're very encouraging and very accommodating. And talking about old wine in new bottle, I was thinking of the videos of Bhakti Circle, because even I realized that even though I was reading Bhagavad-gita since so many years, just watching those videos gave me a very crisp understanding of what it is. And it would be very nice for people who are trying to read Bhagavad-gita to watch those videos and especially take part in the discussions. So thank you so much to Pavani Matri, Chaim Prabhu, and all the devotees behind it. Thank you so much.
And another reflection from Comunidad Bhakti, Prema Prabhu sent across. He had Bhakta Palo come in to his home. He's from Comunidad Bhakti. He has been visiting or attending classes for several weeks now. And they gave him a clicker, Vaishnava songbook, and a photo altar. And he's chanting 12 rounds every day. So he loved the whole thing, experience. So thank you so much, Prema Prabhu and Premi Mataji, for always encouraging so many newcomers. And thank you also for Janu Mataji, who's here, who has been coordinating. So thank you so much for starting this across. So yeah, that's all. There are many service opportunities. In case you are interested, please do connect both us. Thank you so much.
I just want to mention one addition that could help in the outreach. As far as we have the little flyers. Some time ago, Thomas Hari Bol, who's very expert at advertising, had suggested to me and given me a sample of a personal note that he's written that he hands out with every book that he distributes. And he thinks about it and just speaks about it from his own perspective, heart to heart, on this little note. It's kind of in the same shape as a bookmark, only a little thicker. And then at the top, he says something like a personal note. I have that. I can show it to you. And I think I mentioned this a few years ago, but it's an idea whose time has come. And if we take a little time, maybe we have a little time together, and we could all sit down and write a personal note. It's better strength in numbers. And then we can transform those, we have somebody lay them out so that you have those copies. And when you meet somebody and they take a book, you give them that, and it tells heart to heart like what the book means from your point of view. And it's very personal. You sign it at the bottom and so forth. Does that sound something like we could pursue? So we'll do that. If you remind me, and we'll set aside a time, we can write them. I was going to clap, but... Okay, thank you very much. Bhakti community. Sadhu, sadhu. And now we have Malini Devi Dasi, who's been up all night, chanting, hearing, taking care of Maharaj, and nonetheless, here she is to present how we're situated and what we need to do to ride into glory and make our goals. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, we just wanted to bring to everybody's attention that tomorrow is San Francisco Rathyatra. And I don't know if you were there for the LA Rathyatra last week, the most ecstatic Rathyatra ever. I think it gets better every year. But we saw that when you go for the Rathyatra, a lot of devotees are chanting, dancing. But I saw that most of the devotees from ISV, they were doing better than that. They were just distributing books to every person they meet. And I was thinking that every year we follow the same Rathyatra path. So how can we distribute 10,000 books in the same path? But I just want to share one story from a local Subway store. There was some lady working in that store. And usually when you are way behind in the Rathyatra, then you are in no luck, because all the devotees in front of you have covered everybody. There's nothing left for you to do. So I see the devotees, they keep running faster and faster, so they cover first, they meet everybody first and give the books. So, but I was in the back for some reason, and then I thought every store might be covered, but still I was checking if there is something left. And then we went to one store, Subway, that lady was standing there, and then I said, "You might have got the books, right?" And then she said, "No." And I said, "How come they left you?" And then she said, "I don't know, why did they leave me?" She was so enthusiastic. And then when we told about these books, and I was telling her that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he went to every place, he would just teach the Mahamantra to that person, and he says that you go and teach to others. So we just didn't give her one book, but we gave her a stack and we said, now you become the teacher. And whoever comes to your store, you just give the subway books. In the subway, you gave the books. And then she was so happy. She was very happy to be part of the program. So I saw that a lot of books were given like that. And everybody became a book distributor in the process. Every store, almost everybody covered. And then when we went back to the end of the Rathyatra, we still saw like 2 full crates of books left, like maybe about 10 or 20 bags left. And then all the devotees, they didn't take prasadam. I know Kautukarna Prabhu was there, Krishna Prabhu, and then we had Vaishnava Toshni Prabhu there, and many others. They didn't take prasadam, and then we said, okay, we will try to cover within 20 minutes. If we don't finish the books, then we will take them back on the way, we'll give it in the stores. And I said, let me just get some water to drink, and I came back, books were gone. So that was the most blissful thing to do, participate in the Rathyatra, but if you have some service, then it is the most sweetest thing. The same thing, if you missed it on last Sunday, we have an opportunity tomorrow. And if you missed the book packing, 10,000 books packing, we have again here. It's very small because San Francisco Rathyatra is in the park. We don't have so much of opportunity. But we are packing 700 book packs. So please join us. It will be in the parking lot starting at 11 a.m. Venudhari Prabhu in the back there, he can guide you on how to pack the books. So please do see him. And I wanted to mention one more thing about distributing Srimad Bhagavatam sets. We thought that only Cupertino works. But last time when we went to LA, we just thought we'll try a neighborhood. Same principles. You just go knock the door, show the Srimad Bhagavatam, and they just take it. So, and I see that all the Western Sankirtan devotees, wherever they go, they're distributing Bhagavatam sets. The more you show, the more you sell. They're just practicing that principles by carrying Bhagavatam everywhere. So if you like to join today, are there any spots for Western Sankirtan? Okay, there are 2 spots, San Francisco and Oakland. And we have His Grace Gopal Champu Prabhu also here. And His Grace Jai Chaitanya Prabhu also somewhere in town. So we will take advantage of their association and maybe they can teach us something more about distributing Saptarishi sets. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
I recommend, as you're learning book distribution and getting better at it, keep a notebook, and whenever somebody who's a book distributor comes to town or you're at a festival, ask for an interview and sit down and ask them everything, all their tips and all their lines, and write it in your book. And then follow that to the best of your ability. It's a way to become accomplished in book distribution really quickly. So somebody should approach Gopal Champu Prabhu today along those lines and say, hey, what are you doing? How do you do it? And so forth. Make a recording on your phone. Listen carefully, because that's how you'll get good really fast. Our last order is Subhadra, are you still there? You had a question, and I saw that you got unceremoniously cut off at the last minute because we moved on. Krishna 10, Krishna 9, Krishna 8. Subhadra, are you there? Krishna 7, Krishna 6, Krishna 5, Krishna 4, Krishna 3, Krishna 2, Krishna 1, Krishna 0.5, Krishna 0.125. Okay, so now we're going to have our Guru Puja. So what we're going to do is move the carpet out of the way, and all these asanas get stacked over there near Panchatattva, and then we'll stand up around Srila Prabhupada and we'll have the Guru Puja ceremony. Thank you very much, everybody. Gaur Premanande, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.
His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu Ki.
You can please direct your attention towards the screen. We have a few prayers. Nama Shreshtam Manamapi Shachiputram Prasarupam. Everyone together. Shirupam Tasya Grajam Urupari Matarim Voshtavati Radha Kundam Giriramaho Radhikam Harasham Tapto Yasya Patita Kripaya Shri Gurun Dhamnatosi He Guru Jnanada Dinabandho Swanandadata Karanaika Sindho Vrindavana Sinyahi Kavata Prasida Radha Hinaya Prachara He Dinabandho Karanaika Sindho Guru Prasadam Mayi Mandande Aksha Paradeva Agade Tatpada Padmestu Matishta Krishna. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachimata, the association of Srila Swarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatana Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kund and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Sri Radhika and Madhava of Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, radiant giver of your own bliss and your only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please become the Brahma. O friend of the lowly, O Guru Dev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy, so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet, Lord Shri Krishna. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and attain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. Big scripture sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the 3 worlds. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevalama Bhagavati Shadma. Bando Mui Savadana Krishna Prapti Hoy Krishna Prapti Hoy Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine. Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasani Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasani Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Kali Kupura. Kali Kupura Jadi Chao Hey. Bengali. Bengali in the house? Kali Kuku or Shamalangi? Jadi Chao Hey. Work with me, people. Where's Kali Kukur? There it is.
If you want to get rid of the dog-like personality of Kali, then sing the name of Sachinandan, which is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the savior in the Kali Yuga, and he can get rid of all the fears.
Haribo! Kali Yuga Pavana Kali Boy Nashana Shri Sachinanda Natao. Hey! Vaisesika Pujita Gora. Nimani Vishwambar Srinivas Ishwar Bhakta Samua Chitta Shora. Nadiya Shashadar Maya Purishwa Nam Pravartana Sura. Vihitana Shikshaka Nyasi Kulanayaka Madhava Radha Bhava Pura. Sarvabhauma Chaudhana Gujapati Tarana Ramananda Poshana Veera. Rupananda Vadana Sanatana Palana Haridas Lorana Dira. Gajarat Pavana Vishamadasha Kapati Satana Kama. Shira Bhakta Palana Shiksha Jnana Karana Chala Bhakti Dushana Rama. Kali Kupurkar Jaricha Ohe. Kali Duga Pavana Koli Boynashana Shakti Nandana Ohe. Hare Hadaya Namaha Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Shiman Sudan Giridhari Gopinath Madan Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad-gita Shri Rupi Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath Sanatan Shri Jiva Gopal Bhakta Das Raghunath Echai Kosar Kori Charanandan Jaha Hoite Vishnanash Advishapuras Echai Kosai Jarmui Tardas Sansavara Sarurenu Mora Panchagram Kandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas Janameka Name Hoya Vilas Etai Gosai Chabe Bhajan Kulabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhajan Naman Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhajan Naman Sri Guru Vaishnava Pade Madhyamiyaman Not yet Sri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Kodi Nam Sankirtan Kohe Narotamodas Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Come on, can't hear you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's okay, that's okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhagavad Radha Gokulananda, Radha Girihari, Radha Banki Bihari, Radha Gokulananda, Radha Vandanishwara, Radha Pirishwara, Kishore Kishori, Rukmini Dokari, Bhajare. Now, come on. Hey! I say Sri Bhagavana ko mere parambara pranam hai. I say Sri Bhagavana ko mere. I say Sri Gyanashyama ko mere. I say Sri Gyanasha mere parambara pranam hai. Go Premanande! Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Om Shripa Paramahamsa Rivrajagacharya Stotra Shishimad Bhacharanarav Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Rivrajagacharya Stotra Shishimad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Kodi Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Samveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's program. And now we're going to have prasadam, unless it's a fasting day. Is it a fast day? No prasadam today? Nothing? Not even water, right? Is there prasadam? Okay. You want to announce the cooks? There's no prasadam. There's no cooks. It happened by chance. What happened? What's the news from the West Wing?
Hare Krishna. Today's prasadam was cooked in preparation for Janmashtami, so there will be some trial prasadam for that. So a couple devotees, including Hansapriya Mataji, Siddhakata Prabhu, Ujjvala Rasa Mataji, Niharika, and more, helped prepare.
Haribo! Sharira Vijaja Jodendriya Taheka Jibe Pele Dishaya Shagare Tarma De Divayati Loba Moisudhimati Take Jeta Katita Samshare Krishna Borodoyamoy Kori Bare Jihwa Jai Shaprasad Annadi Loba Shayandamrita Pao Radha Krishna Gunadao Preme Dako Chaitanya Nihita Preme Dako Chaitanya Nitai Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Sampapunya Vanamratan Visato Nagajayate Usari Sarvatitanam Anirati Pajayate Patsanate Pasuyashi Nutipaya Patisate Kayota Vistas Patanda Vasavankara Shasikaha Uttishta Bhosino Dasa Stavamayam Jayamahi Bhagavad Shri Mahaprasada Ki Gaur Premanande Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol You ready? Please come take prasadam. It's in the picnic area. Straight out this door, take a sharp right, and you'll see it right in front of you. We'd like to thank everyone, we are thanking everyone for joining us this morning from various places around the planet. I understand some devotees have come from Seattle. Let's welcome the Seattle congregation. Some devotees have come from Portland, Oregon. Is it true? Anywhere else you want represented? I'd like to do a shout out to your town. New York. Laguna Beach. Anywhere else? Vanchakalparusha Kripasindhamevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nandakoti Vaishnavi Ki Jai.
Finally?
No, the Avanti